After high school, the events of Chris's life would be incredibly convoluted, with multiple storylines affecting and interacting with one another. To rectify this, Christorians divided time periods into sagas. A saga of Chris's life can last anywhere from a few weeks to multiple years, and each saga must be studied intently to be fully understood. The first of these so-called sagas was known as the Piedmont Virginia Community College Saga, usually shortened the PVCC Saga. This was the first time the internet would recognize Chris, and also the beginning of their documenting on him. After high school, Chris attended Piedmont Virginia Community College, located in Charlottesville, Virginia. Here he would spend the next 5 years, neglecting 1 year where he was excluded, more on that later. Chris originally undertook the marketing major here, but was swiftly swapped by his father, Bob, to a computer-aided drafting and design course, probably due to Bob believing the simpler degree a more attainable achievement for Chris. However, even the computer course, a supposed 2-year degree, took Chris 5 years to complete. At the start of his college career, Chris was required to consult an academic counselor, likely due to his autism, to help him plan and prepare for college life. Although despite usually enjoying special treatment, Chris appears to act neutral and uninterested in what he did. Most Christorians agree that the reason Chris spent so long getting his academic degree was his lack of effort. This appears, on the surface level at least, to be true, with Chris claiming in later chats with trolls he spent the majority of college playing video games and trying to, quote, attract a boyfriend-free girl, unquote. Despite this, Chris publicly portrays a different reason for his elongated time spent in college. He cites that due to his transfer from marketing to computers, he was unable to count a half year of work towards college credits. Chris also claims he was treated unfairly by faculty, often conflicting with the dean and multiple teachers. A great example of these clashes is when Chris was asked to leave an English class on his birthday, the 24th of February, after an argument with a teacher. Chris's version of events takes place thus. The class was reading Wednesday's Child, a mystery fiction novel written by Canadian author Peter Robinson, in which a detective known as Alan Banks solves crimes in a fictional town in England. In Wednesday's Child, Banks solves a murder case which involves an autistic girl who savagely defiles her victims. Chris cites that he told the professor that he too was autistic and was promptly booted from a lesson, resulting in tears from Chris due to the misunderstanding of the autistic spectrum. Despite this alleged set of actions, Chris would later confide the truth in his gal pals on his 18th birthday. In this separate set of events, he states the subject of sexuality and the LGBT community had come up, resulting in some insulting rhetoric from Chris, which was the true reason for his expulsion from the lesson. Some Christorians speculate the professor may have been homosexual himself, but no evidence for or against this claim have been collected. If this set of events is the true one, the professor was well within his rights to make Chris leave the lesson. The PVCC rules state, quote, when unruly or otherwise unacceptable behaviour occurs in a classroom or lab, the instructor may immediately have the student who is causing the problem leave the classroom, unquote. Regardless of what actually happened, after the event, Chris claims to have first thought of his love quest, a journey that would eventually lead to his expulsion from the college. It's 2003, the fall semester of Chris's 4th year of education, and in an attempt to relieve himself of the suffocation of social isolation, he uses sticky tape to attach a sign to the wall of the PVCC college lobby. The sign is bustling with vibrant colours and pictures of Sonichu. It reads thus, quote, 21 and single white male, shy, smart, young at heart, computer skilled, humorous, a great thinker and go-getter, natural salesperson, enjoys the good parts of life, diplomatic, friendly, loves his family, peaceful, very creative, he's lonely, unquote. Here the text is lacerated with a black line before continuing. Quote, seeking a cute 18 to 21 single female companion, 18 to 21 years of age, does not already have a boyfriend, single, average to slender weight / body type, white, lives in Charlottesville or Ruckersville area, does not smoke or drink alcohol, happy, positive personality, average to high income, drives a vehicle. If any men read this huge sign, mind your business, and to all men with girlfriends except marrieds and blacks, go jump off a cliff. Have a nice day. This sign is a great example of Chris's xenophobia, particularly his racism towards African American and other black minorities. Where this discrimination stems from is difficult to discern, but most likely originates from his strict Christian upbringing in Virginia, as well as his parents' prejudices. Bob, in particular, is rumoured to have been racist, and it's highly likely that this would have rubbed onto Chris's personality. In later life, Chris would find shows such as Family Guy and South Park. Both use satirical American racism to create comedy, but Chris doesn't understand this concept and views this sarcasm as serious, even citing a Family Guy episode as a reasonable reason to be racist. Unfortunately, despite spending numerous hours sitting or standing beside the sign, Chris was unable to attract any admirers. Despite not getting a date, he managed to annoy the college administrators, including the Dean of Student Affairs, Mary Lee Walsh. Chris recounts that on the 7th of October 2003, Mary Lee Walsh stormed up to him, struck his sign from the wall, and yelled at him, quote, in a very violent manner, unquote, criticizing his way of attempting to start social encounters with women. However, due to Chris's delusional retrospectives with authority figures, this is unlikely to have occurred. Emails leaked between Chris and Walsh back up this theory, with Walsh conducting herself cordially and Chris acting erratic. Despite the destruction of his dating sign, Chris remained undaunted, returning with sign after sign, along with a distributed newsletter entitled Sonichu's News Dash. Predictably, this newsletter had little to do with Sonichu. Instead, Chris took center stage, along with his desperate attempts to get a girlfriend. By this time, tired of Chris's tirade of pamphlets, Mary Lee Walsh summoned him to her office in late January of 2004. A lady called Susan Hannafin from Student Disability Services was also present in the meeting, likely to support Chris. In the meeting, Chris was informed that distributing the news dash was the same as soliciting sex, disallowed on campus property, and then was ordered to stop. Chris claims he received a spiel of rhetoric from Walsh, mainly involving her attacking his personality. In return, Chris allowed, quote, Sonichu to speak to her, unquote. He says that, using his body as a conduit, Sonichu talked to Walsh from another dimension. Sonichu finished the first trans-dimensional conversation with a Curse Ye Hami-Ha. A Curse Ye Hami-Ha is Chris's special move in the Sonichu comics, where he invokes inner power to curse people with bad luck. In Sonichu Part 3, Sub-Episode 1, Chris invokes the power of the curse on a villain, who immediately slips on a banana peel and shatters his glasses, shortly before his wife and children leave him. The real-life effects of the curse are up for debate, but seem to be unambiguously falsified by Chris. The curse almost certainly has no real-world effects, apart from allowing Chris to feel more in control of his surroundings. The day after the meeting, Chris posted to his website, inciting people to send Mary Lee Walsh an email demanding Chris be allowed to continue his endeavours. This failed. Chris also sent Mary Lee Walsh a threatening note that, quote, communicated an intimidating glare in pictorial fashion, unquote. Walsh, viewing this note as harassment, began to start disciplinary procedures. Unfortunately for Chris, Walsh was essentially the most knowledgeable faculty member on how to exclude a student. She instigated several hearings, allowing Chris to bring people to protect him. Many Christorians say that Barb and Bob probably battled to abstain Chris from any form of punishment. Whatever happened in these meetings, on the 16th of September 2004, Chris was told he would be suspended from campus activities for 1 year. In order to return, he would need to take anger management classes in addition to being psychologically evaluated. He was attending college again in the fall of 2005. Chris graduated with an associate degree in applied science. In juxtaposition to his high school graduation, Chris seems to not care about this graduation at all, viewing the place as antagonistic and evil. In fact, several years later, Chris would put the PVCC, now renamed the Private Villa of Corrupt Citizens, into the Sonichu comics, including Mary Lee Walsh, a head villain sporting sexually alluring clothing. During his graduation, Chris was clad in his famous Sonichu medallion, detailed later. In addition to this, he wore his clothes from his high school graduation. Born the 23rd of January 1986, Megan Schroeder was Chris's primary pal from 2004 to 2008. She met Chris at his main hangout, the Game Place, during a Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Her brother John Schroeder attended the Game Place regularly as well, although little is known about him apart from the fact he is overweight and participated in the same nerdy endeavours as Chris and Megan. This lack of information originates from the fact that Chris has no interest in other men and spent the majority of time focused entirely on Megan, likely because she was a female. Megan, however, did not reciprocate his feelings as she is asexual. They spent the majority of time together talking about My Little Pony, Sailor Moon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Chris, learning of Megan's interest, became increasingly enamored with these topics and Megan as a whole. Megan viewed Chris, however, as little more than a debit card to purchase her things from second-hand selling sites such as eBay. Quote, "Please can you get this video for me? Please hurry. Thanks. Megan," from leaked emails. Through 2005 to 2006, Chris would increase his advances on Megan, allegedly attempting to kiss her, hold her hand, and interact with her romantically. He even introduced her as a love interest in the Sonichu comic. This would understandably make Megan angry towards Chris, forcing him to retcon and remove romantic scenes between them. Chris's enamoration would culminate when he entered the Parappa the Rapper competition in June 2007 in an attempt to win 2 PSPs and an all-expenses-paid trip to Seattle. According to Chris, he would have given a PSP to Megan and taken her to Seattle if he had won. Unfortunately, Chris came second to a man named Adam Stackhouse. From this point on, Chris would hate Adam, saying he, quote, "broke the rules," unquote. This hatred increased when Chris was told by Megan she wouldn't have gone with him even if he had won, much to his disappointment. Despite reportedly being discovered by 4chan months in advance, the first archived thread discussing Chris was on a derail of a post discussing Sonic on the site Something Awful. Something Awful is a website allowing people to mock and tease the mentally handicapped, and as soon as Chris was found, they began to tear into him. The original poster, named Vickerville, states, quote, "This guy used to leave business cards at my school's library, where he would hang out for hours, looking for a boyfriend-free girl," unquote. Vickerville goes on to say he developed an obsession with Chris, quote, culminating last summer where he made a special trip to a gaming store and local hangout where he had posted he would be. He was every bit as Aspergic as I imagined, unquote. Vickerville goes on to list Chris's web address, leading to mockery in the comments. A user named Jay states, quote, "I really thought web pages this hideous died in the 90s, unquote. Although, even this early on, skepticism on Chris's authenticity was common. The user Biggity Bun stating, quote, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a relatively elaborate joke," unquote. In 2007, an article was created on Chris on Encyclopedia Dramatica, a website similar to Wikipedia with a much more humorous outlook on things. Here, Chris was again ridiculed for all the strange and disturbing content he distributed. In addition to this, finding out Chris's hatred of homosexuals, the artists of the internet began creating lewd homosexual erotica relating to Sonichu, which were added to the Encyclopedia Dramatica page, much to the dismay of Chris. In retaliation, Chris uploaded a video on his YouTube channel asking the ED writers, quote, "edit them," referring to the articles, "to be more positive," unquote. When this failed, Chris began to battle with ED, editing the articles himself. This too failed, with many users simply reverting his changes. Chris then did what he thought was the next most sensible thing, spewing his life story onto the site through YouTube videos and edits. The trolls rejoiced. Chris had just given them more personal information with which to attack him. Finally, to combat the lewd homosexualization of Sonichu characters, Chris created his own artwork, including an image of him performing personal acts on an unnamed character. Trolls and Christorians identified this character as Crystal, Christian's daughter in the Sonichu universe, and began to berate him for his apparently incestual tendencies. Chris quickly refuted these claims, however, telling the Encyclopedia Dramatica forums, quote, "That is not Crystal, that is Megan," unquote. After learning about this blatant butchery of her privacy, Megan confronted Chris via email, who only made the situation worse, stating, quote, "If I didn't have the foresight to put my pent-up frustrations and feelings in the form of something, I might have become an abusive maniac." After this incident, Megan would shut the door on Chris, barely speaking of or with him ever again. With his only source of social contact squandered, Chris will be left in the dark, as he had all those years ago when he was trapped in the crawl space beneath Sarah Hammer's house. This time, however, his parents wouldn't be there to pull him out, and he'd have to deal with his internet hatred himself.